everyone, welcome to Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Andy, on location here in Mountain Top VFW Post in Pleasant Hill, Ohio. Before we get going today, I do want to say thank you to the VFW Post for letting us be on location, and of course to our patrons, the Civil War Digital Digest coffee grinders, whose financial contributions let us get on the road, go on location, do a beautiful place like this, and get to have a fascinating discussion. Our discussion today is about some of the definitions of long arms during the Civil War. And today we have a special guest today, Phil Spaugy, who is a past commander of the NSSA. Phil, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Andy? Glad to have you guys down here in the Buckeye State. You know, the beautiful Buckeye State, I might say.
Well, thank you for having us. It's great to be down
It'll
here.
be a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Super. So let's get into it. We're looking at 4 different weapons. Phil, what is different about each of these weapons?
I think to begin with, Will, we got to look at what's very important about this time of arms development is just put this thought in your mind. In 1840, the U.S. Army is still using flintlock rifle muskets. By 1870, we were completely cartridge arms. So you've got a tight window of like 33 years of the most tremendous arms development that we've known in this country. Now, we will start with this model 1816 or 22 smoothbore musket, okay? Originally, it had been a flintlock, but in the 1840s and 50s, the U.S. Army and some contractors would switch it to the percussion mode of ignition.
As they go from flintlock to percussion, talk to me about what changes on this musket.
Okay, they take the flintlock apparatus out, change it over to a percussion apparatus. They take the barrel and they actually dimple up a seat to put a cone in, sometimes called a nipple, but actually a cone right here to provide the ignition source for the ammunition, okay? So that's the big change right there. The ammunition stays the same, either a 64 caliber round ball or the buck and ball, which is a 64 caliber round ball and 31 caliber buckshot.
Great. So we've got the musket.
Okay.
Let's move down. What do we call the next one down?
Model 1841 rifle, also known as the famous Mississippi rifle because it was used by Jefferson Davis, 1st Regiment Mississippi Volunteers in the Mexican War. What was different about it? It used a patched round ball, was very accurate for its age. It was made at Harper's Ferry, various contractors, never made at Springfield. This variant right here is one of the early variants that was modified in 1854 to have a long-range rear sight and to take what would be the Harper's Ferry or Burton ball during their technology change the mid-1850s.
And for those people who are used to the colloquial name, what would they think the Burton ball is? What do we call it?
It would be the mini ball or the Minet ball.
And why is it the Burton ball?
The Burton ball is because James Burton, who was the assistant master armorer at Harper's Ferry, 1853, 1854, would take the basic design and change it by looking at the diameter of the bore, the thickness of the skirt, and the powder charge to ensure the correct expansion of the ball into the rifling grooves without the use of an iron cup like the Minet ball had.
So, we have a rifle here, obviously shorter, and the name rifle, so we know it's rifle. It's going to be a more long-range weapon. Who is this meant for on the battlefield?
Initially, and actually this happened through the first couple of years of the war, it would be the 2 skirmish companies of a regiment. 10 companies in a regiment, 8 would be the line companies. The 2 skirmish companies would be armed with the rifles because they would be set out on the skirmish line as light infantry.
And of course, with a shorter weapon, it's easier to load, especially lying down, kneeling, things like that.
Exactly.
Phil, let me throw this at you as somebody who's been part of the NSSA for more than a few years. What's the difference in load time in training from a musket that is 500ths undersized on a ball to a patched ball here? How much longer does this take to load?
It's going to take, you're probably going to get, let's say 4 rounds a minute with the Burton ball versus maybe 2 with the patched round ball. The patches for the round ball were actually kept in the patch box, and they were leather, and the ball was a 54 caliber, and the ball was like a 5.35 5.30 diameter.
Very tight fit.
Yes, so it has to ensure the seal for the gas to provide the accuracy of the ball.
Well, Phil, that load time is actually closer to the musket than I would have expected, thinking back to some things from the American Revolution. But let's move forward. We move to a third weapon here. What would we categorize this as?
This is a rifled musket. Why is it a rifled musket? Because it started life as a smoothbore and then was rifled. Okay. Hence the name rifled musket.
Is there a story to this particular one?
It is. Well, Miles Greenwood would have rifled this and cited this. He cited 20% of the ones he did for the flank companies that we just discussed about, or the skirmish companies, in 1861. Between July of 1861 and November, he did 25,000 arms for the state of Ohio. He did 3,000 for Indiana, a number also for Iowa. A very, very influential arms maker, and he was able to provide the new rifle technology to the Ohio Volunteers. The boys of 61 all wanted the rifle or rifled musket, hence mainly due to the publicity of the infield in the Crimea before the war. This put an arm in their hands, which may not have been the infield or the Springfield model of 1855, but again, was rifled.
You know, I find the term itself is really interesting, right? And that's part of why we're doing this episode, is to break down a musket, a rifle, a rifled musket. You know, because in the U.S. Army Ordnance manuals in 1850, 1860, they only use the word rifle musket and rifle musket. The term's not there. But there's some really interesting letters from Colonel Craig, who's the head of the Ordnance Department, as he's doing the initial orders in the 1850s. And he only refers to this transformation as a rifled musket in the past tense. And it's interesting to see his successor, Colonel Ripley, in the 1860s, talking about the new model Springfields, 1855, 1861, as rifle muskets. So it's interesting how it's a semi-official phrase to talk about this modification of an original weapon.
We've seen one technological advance taking flintlocked percussion. We're now taking that same platform and making a second technological change, adding the rifling. How does the actual firearm stand up to this additional change?
The Ohio boys of 61 had mixed reviews of the actual use of the Greenwood Alder muskets. Colonel Garfield would say that it was a very good arm. You'll see some guys who will say it was junk, it was old. You know, it's always interesting to me that these were old guns, but they were made in the 1830s and we're only in 1861. So old guns fixed up, you know, they wouldn't fire. A lot of it is, I think, because they really wanted, in 61 particularly, the infield P53 rifle musket.
It's fashion show.
It is a fashion show.
You know? Or the Springfield 1855, the things that are new and, the newest best thing.
Oh, great. Well, then let's go ahead. We have musket, we have rifle, we have rifled musket. What's left?
We've got a Savage model 1861 Springfield rifle musket here. This was issued to the state of New Jersey, dated, again, 1863. This was the primary arm of the federal forces. This had another model 1863, which was made in the latter part of 1863. Between the both of them, there's probably more than 1 million of these arms made. And this is the top of the line rifle musket of the American Civil War right here.
So in that case, we have a weapon that is of musket length, the same relative length as the 1816, 1842, yep, but begins its life as a rifle, designed that way. It's meant, exactly, the lands, the grooves, everything is, yep, meant for the weapon, the bullet it's firing.
Yes, sir. That's what it is.
So I think the thing I would call out when we look at the difference between the four weapons, practically when you speak from a living history or a employment of military application, is the three musket-length weapons use a socket bayonet. The rifle uses the saber or sword bayonet, right, and that's going to give you issues, particularly stacking arms, which is the reason Hardy's Tactics, which was written for the rifle and light infantry, is written in the 1855 version to stack with the ramrods.
And you'll see also that the rifle would actually fall out of favor for federal use by 1863. There's only one regiment at Gettysburg, the 45th New York, had them.
We've talked about these terms, and I think as we were getting ready for the show, one of the things that we both talked about is that while these terms existed, they are certainly, these definitions exist, they're not exclusive, they're nebulous still, too.
because you can read the ordnance reports, you can read the letters, you can read the official records, and they'll refer to the Springfield rifle musket as a rifle. They'll refer to it sometimes as a rifled musket, but the correct terminology to think about is a rifle has a 33-inch barrel, and the rifle musket and the rifled musket will both have nominally 40-inch barrels.
I think the other thing to talk about here is whereas the typology of, say, a Federal Forage Cap, which is Type 1 or Type 2, or Les Jensen's typology of the Richmond Depot Jackets 1, 2, and 3 are descriptors that no soldier who lived during the Civil War would recognize. These are all terms that those fellas could have run into.
Yes.
And one other quick closer here for us is think about, especially the early years of the war, the ordnance problems that we had with a brigade that might have a 69 caliber smoothbore, a 54 caliber Mississippi rifle or Lorenz, 54 caliber Lorenz, a 69 caliber rifle musket, and then the 58 caliber Model 1855 or 61 early on.
Well, lads, with both of you guys being Iron Brigade guys, we'll have to call out the 2nd Wisconsin here, because just after Gettysburg, they get Enfields, and they are the last regiment to move to 58 caliber ammunition from the 54 caliber Lorenzes, making your point exactly in your field of study. Well, Phil, thank you for joining us. And Andy, it's fun to be on screen with you. We said this is the first time since the Memorial Day. It's been a few 4 years ago that we've been on screen together. And Phil, you represent 75% of the weapons here. So thank you for bringing the examples that help us tell the story.
Well, it's fun.
And we'll say thank you to that for staying with us. There is an appropriate place to have plenty of conversations about good weapons through history and to draw a better connection to history and the service that men had during the Civil War in it. Want to say thanks for taking the ride with us. For Civil War Digital Digest, I'm Will with Andy and Phil. We'll see you soon.